Welcome to Out of the Noise podcast, a spiritual growth podcast. This podcast is about holding sacred space to help assist humanity to raise their consciousness through connection by having courageous conversations out of the noise of mainstream with heart-centered leaders, wisdom keepers, and divine humans expanding into their authenticity and soul purpose. We will explore spiritual concepts, practices, and shadow to deepen into your healing and the collective. Priestess Lilly is a medium, light activator, and heart-centered leader that is committed in raising the light frequency and consciousness here on Earth for us all. You can work with her and learn more by visiting www.priestesslily.com. Enjoy your spiritual learnings.
Welcome to Out of the Noise. I'm Priestess Lilly. Medium, channeler, sacred heart healer, and space holder. Creating content to help assist humanity to rise their consciousness through connection by having courageous conversations that will leave you activated with heart-centered leaders, wisdom keepers, and divine humans expanding into their authenticity and soul purpose. Together, we strive to assist a higher level of consciousness and help each other on our own spiritual journeys. Today's guest is the stunning, heart-centered, grounded leader, Zeb Jackson, who is a citizen journalist and runs Zeb Jackson Live. She has been spending so much time endlessly helping, communicating, organizing, and embodying the community of Hawke's Bay. I can't wait to hear how she has made an impact, spreading her love and light to that region.
Welcome, Zeb. I've been so looking forward to interviewing you and have secretly been following you for quite some time on Facebook since the protest and obviously your bigger conversations and Zeb Jackson Live. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes and what insight around Hawke's Bay you have for the listeners.
Well, hello, beautiful. It's so good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and chat with you. I appreciate the opportunity. Lots of big things have been happening in Hawke's Bay recently, and I guess I've been one of the lucky ones right in the middle, experiencing a lot of it with the people, with the residents of the area. Certainly gone through some pretty shocking things we've had to do and see and work through as a team. But it's definitely been one of those experiences that you take with you forever. It's hit pretty close to home.
So what made you basically be called and activated to help the people?
Well, what first got me going was a good friend of mine, Tobias Tahi. He first off initiated the first funding drive that I helped him with in Hamilton. We sent a couple of trucks down from there as soon as the cyclone hit. We got moving. We started pulling donations in, or I started up a funding account to get donations to get these trucks down. And after we finished in Hamilton, I went back over to Waihi, where I was at the time, and I did another donation drive there before loading my bus up from floor to ceiling, full of donations, and driving through myself. Of course, I had to go the long way round. That's, right down around through Palmerston North and Dannevirke and up that way. So it was quite a long drive. And when I got there, I had messaged a couple of people to say I was on my way. Let's get together. Let's grab some shovels and get out there and help wherever we can. So it started off with, I think, a team of 5 or 6 of us who met on that first day. They helped me unload the bus full of donations, and then we hit the streets. We didn't really have any idea where we were going or who we were going to speak to or how we were going to help, really. We had no idea what we were going to come across. But we went out there with, I think, a couple of shovels and a wheelbarrow and some gumboots, and we just started talking to people across in streets. And I started noticing that there were a lot of other people doing the exact same thing as us. They were out there with their gumboots and shovels and wheelbarrows, sort of walking around, not really knowing who to talk to or how to help or who needed the help that they could provide. And I saw a very clear need for a little bit of organisation and logistics, and decided to create a new page on Facebook and encourage people to start joining our team, and began directing people to different addresses after I'd spoken to property owners in the area, and it just sort of happened in a really grassroots sort of organic kind of way. I feel very thankful that I already had my established social media following, and I was able to utilise that to get the job done. It was certainly a matter of using the following to help the people rather than going into go in to get all the likes and the things that go along with a lot of social media videos. It was certainly not like that. It was more utilising the following that was there and available, and spreading awareness and gaining interest, and basically letting the nation know what was going on, what was really going on, because as you know, there wasn't a lot of that, and there still isn't a lot of that being shown in the mainstream media here in New Zealand. It's been quite shocking, actually, that it's not being shown.
Yeah, I think that was I was talking to clients and they were telling me what their houses were looking like and showing me pictures and stuff. And I was shocked. Well, I wasn't shocked at, what was being covered on mainstream media. And then you look at your videos and speaking to the people, and it's just like, are we actually in the same world? Like, are we actually talking about the same region?
Yeah.
Because to me, there was just no comparison.
A very stark contrast, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we saw it during COVID, obviously, in the protest in Wellington, but I didn't think it would be like that when there was that I didn't think our country, it would be like that when there was that real desperation of need. Like, these are our people, these are actually a whole region that's just been affected, where people are screaming for help because they're really vulnerable, homeless, and they're scared.
They are very scared. That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that it's really interesting to see that even 5 minutes up the road in main centres like Napier and Hastings, many of the people honestly still have no idea the extent of what's going on and the destruction that continues to affect the people that are still living in these areas that have been absolutely decimated by Cyclone Gabrielle and the flooding. The amount of cleanup work that still needs to be done is just massive, absolutely massive. And it's just really interesting that, just a few minutes up the road, it seems that a lot of people have no idea.
See, that's so sad. When, obviously when the Canterbury quake hit, I lived in Kaipoi at that stage, and Kaipoi got hit quite badly in the first quake. And seeing the devastation, and I was a trauma counsellor at that stage, and the conversations and talking to people, and people just mucked in and helped each other out and got the stuff done. But it's a different layer of devastation, because how do you physically move all of that mud and silt? Where in Canterbury, we had the farmers, the army, the student army all come out and help the citizens. What I'm seeing is that's not even happening there.
Well, during the 7 weeks that I was in there running that team and doing all that cleanup work, I can honestly say not once did I see someone from Civil Defence. Not once did I see someone from the Red Cross. I haven't spoken to these organisations specifically or directly. All I go on is what I'm being told by the residents that we are helping, and the majority, if not all, of the residents that we have worked with have told us the same thing, and that's that they've applied, some of them have applied for help or support financially to clear their properties. They've been turned down, and I just don't understand it. I don't know what's going on here, and they're being really put off by being shut down by these organisations. They're reaching out for help. They are constantly reaching out for help, and they're not seeing that support, and so it's putting them off from continuing to reach out to these places that have the financial means to support them, and who are advertising the fact that they're collecting money in order to help these people. These people don't know where this money is going. What is going on? I don't know. The only sort of reasonable conclusion I can sort of try and come to is that, well, they must be out in some areas that are still inaccessible. Maybe all this funding is going towards reinstating roads towards inaccessible communities still. I'm really not sure, but the devil's advocate in me likes to think that, they are spending this money wisely. It's just, not going to these private property owners that we've been working with, and they've been devastated. Their whole livelihoods, their homes, they're gone. They're being offered cabins to live in from the council or from their accommodation services, but they're still being expected to pay market rates for these cabins on top of having to still pay and still keep up with payments on their mortgages for the homes that they can't live in anymore. It's just... It's absolutely ludicrous. Where is the support? They've asked how they're supposed to pay for these cabins, and the answers are just not clear. They're very vague. It's quite difficult.
I know that, that just makes my heart bleed, because, New Zealanders would hate to think, we donate money to where we feel the need is needed and it's not getting through. And I know that for myself, after I did the Kaikoura and Waiā quake, and, very much spoke and wrote my book, and very much spoke to Winton Gray and Winston Daly, which were the two mayors at that stage, they had a lot to say about the way that the money was granted and the funding, and that most New Zealanders always thought that there's someone worse off than them, so they didn't apply for the funding, or, there's someone worse off than me, or they need it more than me, I'm okay. And I know that that's New Zealanders, that we don't want to put our hand in if we, but actually that's what the money's there for too at the same time, to help people. And I know that for myself, when obviously the Canterbury quake, people were transitioned into portacoms or porta homes, and it was exactly the same thing. People had to pay market rent, and they can't afford it, so people were going backwards, and that's when we have a real issue around people's well-being, mental health. We already have an issue in this country around that.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. The mental health of the residents living in these areas is a huge concern. It is a really big concern. I can say that I have seen a couple of women walking around the areas with shirts that say welfare on the back. I'm not sure what organisation they are with, whether it's Red Cross or I really don't know, but I can say on a couple of occasions I did see these people. But, the things that these residents have experienced would cause anyone significant trauma, significant PTSD, all of that sort of thing. I can't even count anymore the number of property owners I've spoken to who have told me stories of being stuck on their rooftops, having to watch and listen to their precious horses drown, listen to those drowning noises of all their sheep in their paddocks, their dogs, their cats. It's absolutely heart-wrenching stuff. The number of animals that we had to bury, not just that died from the flooding itself, but the animals that continued to die after feeding and drinking, the water and stuff remaining on the land after the flooding. It continued much longer than you would have thought it would continue. We've definitely gone through this in stages where, at the beginning, you were seeing a lot of dead animals around. You were seeing a lot of dead animals, a story 2 stories high up in treetops, there would be dead animals just sitting there. And it was definitely very confronting to come across. And as the weeks went on, we sort of noticed a change in the air, sort of going from having to do things like bury animals, and then going into things like removing flood damaged furniture from homes. So we went into that sort of stage where we were doing a lot of that work. And then it went into another stage where we were doing a lot of pulling jib off walls, pulling linings, pulling out insulation, all that sort of stuff from within a home, within the walls, so that all that framing had a chance to air dry. I had a lot of property owners, residents alone, because sentimental attachments to these homes. I mean, it's all well and good to say the homes will be demolished, they'll be rebuilt with insurance money. That's all lovely, but you need to remember that these people have spent 20, 30 years of their life living in these homes in some instances. And so that sentimental attachment to these homes is really big. And if we were to leave that jib up and leave that mud and silt underneath the floorboards, then what happens is the houses just rot from the outside in, and then they definitely have to be bulldozed. And while they know that insurance will take care of that at the end of the day, that's not really the point here. So if we can help, we chose to get in there and just get the job done. And once we had sort of moved on from removing jib and stuff, like I said, we got into removing floorboards and getting shovels right underneath houses. This is real heavy, dirty, grubby work. And the really cool thing about the team, and there was about 800 people that came and went from the team while I was managing it. And the cool thing about all these people was it was kind of like it was a fight to get to the dirtiest job possible, the muddiest job, the most disgusting job that had to be done. Everyone wanted that job, and it was just so cool. And the fact that we had a lot of people coming and going from the team, I encouraged everyone just to come and go as their time and energy is allowed. And so it was cool if you couldn't turn up till 11 o'clock in the morning and you could only be there for 2 hours to help. That was, we appreciate those people for the time they were available to help. That was great. But the constant turnover of volunteers meant, we always had people who were really tired, really exhausted, had been going for 2 or 3 weeks straight already, kind of thing. And they were sort of at their emotional and physical end of what they were capable of doing. But having these new fresh faces come in every day with this fresh energy and fresh motivation really picked up the others who were tired, and it kept that energy going so that we could get the job done. It was really cool. And after a while, it was cool to start seeing some kids that were coming into sight, when all the yucky stuff was done and dusted with. We were able to have children in on the team, and the adults and the older people who were there helping were really motivated by these young people running around and laughing and giggling and what is a really, really challenging environment to be working in. Having simple things like that, like a dog running around or a child, it was actually really uplifting. So it was really cool.
What's your biggest insight, sister, from the whole, because you were there for a month, what's your biggest insight?
Oh, my biggest insight? Oh, could you be a little bit more specific for me?
Okay, so obviously you were connecting with different people every day. What's the one thing that you'll take away that really, really touched your heart? Your biggest insight that you were like, wow, we're doing this. Oh, you're just frozen on me.
Pretty amazing. There was one particular day. Yes, I'm having trouble with your video feed as well. It seems to be coming and going a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll keep going just on the off chance you can hear me. But there was one day when I sort of looked around, and I think we had 5 or 6 diggers going in the background with 3 tip trucks and a couple of bobcats and a couple of other things going. And I just sort of stopped what I was doing and looked around and just had a big wow moment as to, what was really happening and what was going on and what we had created as a team, because this wasn't a one-man band kind of thing. yes, I seemed to be the main face of it and I seemed to be the main overseer and manager of what was happening, but it really was a lot of little teams coming together, like the foods team, the laundry team. The food was getting donated from all over the place. The machinery was getting donated. We were getting portaloos for free. You know, it was a combination of a lot of different people, a lot of different organisations and individuals that were coming together to support this grassroots cause and the efforts that we were going to every day, and being able to show all the work we were doing. It just created further awareness and further interest in what we were doing, and further interest to help support what we were doing, which was really, really good. So it all happened in a really organic way, and just looking back on it now, I still find myself going, wow, did that really happen? And there was a big moment one day when we had so one of our heavy machinery managers or coordinators, whatever he liked to call himself, he had a particular term he liked to call himself, Marty, who came to the team. He was a huge asset to the team. He had a background in working, doing the sort of things that we were doing. So it was really helpful to have him be able to visualise what needed to be done and then direct people to be able to do it. But Marty stopped and had 3 diggers going and a couple of tip trucks. But he looked at me and he said, I don't know if you're aware, but them sort of work for them just in one day. And that was sort of a waking up sort of moment for me, like, wow, this is actually really cool. This is having a really good positive effect on these property owners here in Hawke's Bay. It was an amazing realisation, to be honest, to be told that, because I had no idea, never having, I do not have any experience doing this sort of thing whatsoever. So, you know, coming in here and literally jumping in the deep end of the pool without any flotation devices was what I did. And it was pretty hard. It was very difficult. There were definite frequent elements of burnout that I was experiencing. You know, I'd sort of run off in the middle of the day behind a bush somewhere and just have a big cry, just because it was just so confronting and overwhelming, and it was quite difficult to process all the things you were coming across and seeing and hearing from these property owners. It was, yeah, I will live with those memories for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So who supports you, sister? Have you got a good...
Who supports me?
Yeah, have you got a good support team? Because, like, I hope you have, honey.
I definitely had the most amazing people step up and take on some pretty good positions of responsibility with what we were doing there. I can't say more for the likes of people like Martha, who took over the team, the likes of Penny and Kaya and Rook and Marty, who took on leadership positions, which took so much pressure off me. I felt like I was sort of trying to do 5 full-time jobs at once. It was absolutely nuts. I was, you know, on the phone from about 7 o'clock in the morning right through till midnight most days, 7 days a week. And in that 7 weeks, I only had 1 real day off, which was, I was pretty grateful for that one day. Don't get me wrong. I tried to have a couple of days off previously, but it didn't really work out. I was just constantly on the phone, and how could I not be with, you know, knowing that I had the ability to help people, knowing that I possessed that ability. How could I not? How could I say no? There was no option to say no. I had to keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So those that are listening to this that are feeling activated to still want to do something in supporting the Hawke's Bay region, or, you know, wanting to step forward, what do they still need?
What do they still need? The biggest need, and I hate to say this, the biggest need is financial, because those diggers are not cheap. I was easily going through $2,000 to $3,000 per day in hire fees. In the beginning, closer to $1,000 to $1,500 per day, but near the end, it was definitely between $2,000 and $3,000 per day. Those tip trucks, you know, the tip trucks, they're about $500 a day on their own. The bigger diggers, they're $600 to $700 here run machinery, that's $130, and it just all adds up so quickly. So the biggest need is definitely financial, because without those diggers and that machinery, all we have is shovels and spades, and there is a lot of big work that needs to be done on those properties. So I would have to say the biggest need is financial, whether that's donating directly to the likes of Martha, who has taken over the crew that I established there and put the structure in place to run, whether it's to someone like Martha, or whether it's even bypassing Martha completely and just donating directly to the likes of our hire pool account, because people have donated directly with our account number, our hire pool, and that, I guess, gives you the security and knowing it's definitely going straight to a digger hire. But there are pretty good, but always be a couple more wheelbarrows. Another petrol water blaster definitely won't go amiss. We did start off using electric water blasters. As you might be aware, a lot of properties out there still don't have power. Quite difficult having the electric blaster. That was a huge game changer. It was so good, and I know another one of those would not go amiss. Chainsaws and hedge trimmers are certainly things that come in handy. However, they're not things that seem to be used on a daily basis. Food-wise, specifically meat can be quite pricey for our meals team. I know our meals team are always very appreciative of having donations of meat come in, even if it's anything is definitely very much appreciated in the meat department. I know there are some people still seeking means of accommodation. I didn't get too heavily involved myself in accommodation because I already had my plate full and I didn't want to have to babysit any properties where people might have been acting out. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone acting out. I can honestly say we have never had to come across or deal with any in-house arguments or any in-house fighting. It's all happened really, really well, but I also needed to acknowledge and be aware that I did not know the majority of the volunteers coming through and their backgrounds and things like that. So I know there are still some people seeking means of accommodation there, whether that means land for them to erect a tent on or caravans or things like that. Showers and toilets are a big thing that property owners seem to need. Without septic systems and things like that, it can be quite difficult. We left the property that we were last at. We built a composting toilet there for the solo woman who was living there before we left, because all she had access to was a portaloo that was out on the road that we had no idea who was paying for or how long it was going to be there. So I was really glad we were able to leave her with a bit of security and knowing that she would always have a toilet available if that portaloo got taken. But there are many, many residents in this position, and yeah, it is quite difficult. There's a lot of need for fences and builders and plumbers, things like that. If you have those sorts of skills, there are definitely residents in the area who could do with your help. I'm also sad to say there has been a lot of scamming going on with labourers and machinery operators going in, knocking on doors, offering help with their machinery, and then, a week later in the mail you receive an invoice for thousands of dollars, even though money was never a topic of conversation, never mentioned, and their approach seemed to be out of the kindness of their hearts. So that has been really difficult for residents to deal with. So I can say if there are any contractors wanting to go into the area, please be very upfront and clear about costs involved with any work that you're offering to do. Yeah.
Oh my God, sister, there's so much still that's needed.
Yes, there is. There really is. Honestly, if I could have stuck around longer, I would have loved to have gotten a team together to provide some sort of reliable security for some of the areas who honestly don't feel like they can rely on the police to protect them. It's quite difficult to get through to police when something goes down in the area. Phone service is still pretty shot, and then even I had to try and call the police a couple of times, and it would just ring out and get cut off, and it was really, really difficult. Yeah.
So we must get those numbers off you, Martha's numbers and the bank account numbers, because I'm sure there's many people that will be listening to this that will be in a position to support. There'll be people also in a position that, couldn't go initially, but maybe work's freed up, time's freed up, that they can go and support now, because this is the thing. What we're learning en masse is that our systems and structures and governments are failing us. And so what it comes back to is, what type of earth do we want to live in? We have the ability to co-create and heal ourselves if we stand in our sovereignty and in our power and work together. And I think, what you've done is absolute proof in the pudding.
Well, it is. It does. It just goes to show that, where there's a will, there's a way. And I think I'm thankful that I didn't have any involvement with places like Civil Defence and Red Cross and councils, and I don't say that in a derogatory way. I say that from a place where it meant that we didn't have to jump through all the regulations and loopholes. We were able to skip the hindering process and just get in there and get the work done. And I think that's what needs to happen. People just need to just put up their hand. And instead of talking, just get out there and do it. Just do it. Just get out there, grab a shovel and go. Yeah. I think got to start somewhere.
I know that for myself, someone who's worked in the system with the natural disaster and someone who's worked out of the system and gone rogue, I remember saying to my husband at the time, let's just do it. Let's just do it and apologise later. Like, we ain't got time to piss around. Yeah. And that was literally, and never in a million years for when I did my response did I think the community would respond en masse the way that it did. That, everything was just at my fingertips. Never did I have an understanding that, I was having helicopters and bloody aeroplanes and everything just given to me. And I keep saying to people, I've got no money, but I need, can I have please? And, I think that's the thing. New Zealanders are very giving, but we need to be giving to the right causes that are going to empower our people. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's what we're learning too.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right in the sense that a lot of our systems are broken now here in New Zealand. Our health system is really broken. Our education system is gone. Our transport system is really messed up. The list goes on and on and on. What is this with the new waters reforms? It's all really, really messed up. Our Prime Minister doesn't know what a woman is. It's like, what is going on here? I just don't even know. I don't know how we got to this point. I really, really don't. And it just seems absolutely ridiculous.
And this is the thing. While we're all being distracted by that, we're actually not like connecting like this and actually going, hey, what's the need? What do you need? I'm here to help. How can we make this happen? And I think that's the thing. Like, if we want to change and live in the world we want to live in, we've got to get down to grassroots community, start connecting to people, having bigger conversations, activating change at this level, and then build up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Start from scratch. Start all over again.
Yeah, and I love it. I love your work that you do. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and having a chat to us. I know that many of the listeners have been itching to hear about what the hell's happening in Hawke's Bay and how they can actually support.
Yeah, well, as far as supporting or contacting Martha, who's running the Hawke's Bay cleanup crew now, Martha, we're not putting out her phone number publicly, but she can be contacted via private message on Facebook. Her name is Martha Taonui. Her surname is Taonui, and you will see her profile picture with an end the mandates flag picture. Yeah.
Oh my God, love her already. In the mandates. That's another conversation.
Oh, it is.
Hey, thank you, gorgeous girl.
Oh, thanks for the chat. I really appreciate it. I hope you have the most amazing week.
I will. Thank you.
All right.